4 days passed. Everyone was anxious about the law being passed in just a few more days. Heroes would be no more in just 3 days. The heroes were obviously worried. The protesters were somewhat happy, though not really sure what would happen after actually having their demands met. Well, it wasn't all bad news, for me anyways. Sue asked if we could go to a coffee shop not too far away in the city. Just the two of us. Was this a date? A trial? Who knows, but it was obviously a good sign. Just us? I asked, trying to contain my excitement. Well, considering what we're going to be talking about, yes, was what she told me. Slightly cryptic, but it was obvious at the same time that we were going to be talking about our relationship. Not much had happened over the 4 days since she last updated me. When do you want to go? I asked. There's nothing else that I need to do today, so unless you need to attend to something, how about we get ready and go now, she suggested, to which I happily complied. I had already had my therapy for the day, so within a few minutes, we had everything we needed to go and headed off. She directed us to a small cafe not too far into the city, which was overshadowed by the park, a distance away. If you looked well enough, you could see the tree and bench where I asked Sue if she'd be agreeable to carving our initials into the tree, which she wasn't, and showed how I shouldn't be too. A few minutes after we sat down and ordered our coffee, as we were talking, I had a text from Erica. Hey Alex, just got a text from Mina. She's got a half day of school today, so she's coming to meet up with us in the park. I relayed the message to Sue and asked if she wanted us to go and try this another day and hang out with Mina. Surprisingly, she wanted to stay. I like Mina-chan a lot, but we've already ordered our drinks, and everyone else is going to be there. It would be rude for us to just talk with each other since the point is to meet up with Mina. But if we spend most of our time with Mina, we'll both be frustrated and anxious about what we have to talk about. I also prefer talking to her in smaller groups too. I was thinking of going to visit her instead. So, unless you want to go, we can stay, since we'll have another chance. Oh man, bad timing. Sue and I are on a date, I think. We'll catch her another time. Tell her we said hi. I chuckled a little. I wonder if I'll see any of them at the top of the park at any point. Maybe if they go to the top. I'll let you know if I see them, she said, as she was sitting facing out towards the glass, and I was facing in towards her. I nodded and asked, So, what exactly did you want to talk about? She leaned forward slightly and cupped her hands together. First, tell me how you've been the past few days. We haven't talked much, sorry about that. It's fine. I've been a little tired. Haven't slept too well for a few nights, I said, alluding to the fact that my nightmares were coming back and that I couldn't sleep well without her. But other than that, not too bad. Been hanging out with friends, and I've had therapy every day. Kept off social media too, news is only bad. You? She listened and admitted, It's been a little difficult, sleeping, yes. I've been spending some time with friends as well, but I've also been doing a lot of thinking about the ban and how it's going to affect us. I threw my hands up in frustration. I can't believe they think that banning heroes is going to solve the problem. What's next, defunding the police? As Sue spoke, our coffee came to the table. And the public believe that they can fend for themselves. If the Sinister Six are still working together, at least in part, there's not a lot of citizens who can fight them. We thanked the waitress as she brought us our drinks. She continued, But that then throws everything I've ever wanted to become out the window. I wanted to become a pro-hero and help people. Now what? She looked sadly down into her cup and I sighed, scratching the back of my head. And a little part of me is always going to blame myself for not doing things differently. But I'm here now, and I'm here if you want to brainstorm ideas for what you could do. Ever thought of giving swimming lessons? She rolled her eyes at me and smiled. Have you thought about doing delivery work? I chuckled a little as I took a sip of my coffee. As I was doing so, she then decided to come out and ask, Are you considering this as a date? I nearly choked on my coffee and coughed a few times, with her grabbing the napkins on our table and handing them to me quickly, which I took and cleaned myself up with. You just waited for me to swallow, didn't you? I asked. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, she apologized quickly. I know, it's alright. I'm honestly not sure what to call this. I was hoping you'd tell me. You're the one who invited me, after all. She thought for a moment. I guess that's a fair point. I guess the reason I asked you to come here today was because I wanted to talk about our relationship privately, after all. Meanwhile, most of our former classmates were getting ready to go to the park. Well, not even most. All of them were, even Bakugo. No questions asked. Shinso and Tokage decided to join in too, since Kaminari was close to him, and also close to Mina. Tokage, I don't know actually, I think she tagged along with Shinso. Seems kind of fishy, but whatever. They were all getting to the park at around the same time, Mina being abnormally early for her, being there an entire minute before she said she would be. She hugged everyone she met, Midoriya, Araraka, Ida, Tokiyami, and Shoji. Everyone else started arriving within minutes of each other, Mina viciously hugging each and every one of them, even Bakugo, who begrudgingly accepted. Strangely enough, she left Mineta alone. She didn't really know Shinso or Tokage too well, or at all even, so they got to know each other a bit. So, what are we doing now that we're here? Mina asked everyone. You're the one who invited us here, Shinso said, dumbfounded by her senselessness. She giggled and slapped her head. Oh, right. Well, maybe we can just chat for a bit, and when we get hungry, I'll take you all out for McDonald's. Everyone was very agreeable to the idea of hanging out and eating afterwards, so did just that. Hung around and talked for a while. So, what are your new classmates like? Jiro asked her. They're cool. A little uptight, but I'll get them to loosen up soon enough. If we even stay in contact after the law passes, since there won't be hero courses anymore. I actually met Inteli, the girl who led her class in the hero license exam that you beat, Mina replied. Yaoyorozu, Shoji, and Jiro were especially interested in hearing about that. What's she like? Yaoyorozu asked. She's definitely got a leader complex, and she's really smart. It's a little intimidating at first, but she's super nice. A short distance away, Bakugo nudged Kirishima, Sero, and Sato before asking Kaminari, Hey, dunce face! What's black and white and rolling down the hill? He thought as his black jacket stretched upwards a little when he put his finger and thumb to his chin. I don't know. What is black? Bakugo then shoved him and caused him to fall over at a steep part of the hill, causing him to roll several times before stopping. You! Shinso glanced over and chuckled as Kaminari spat out some grass and got up, humiliated at the others who were laughing at him. Mina, Hagakure, and Tokage talked for a bit, as most of the others had split off into smaller groups to talk among themselves. It was a really nice day, so there were a lot of other people out for a walk in the park too. Tokiyami sat on the bench at the edge of the park and was staring off into space when he suddenly felt his heart skip a beat. Not in a good way. He started sweating profusely, almost frozen with fear. He turned his head slowly, almost completely around, and saw him slowly coming towards him. It's interesting how humans can tell when they're being watched. Even if it's from a few hundred meters away, we can always tell somehow. Especially when there's murderous intent behind the stare. They locked eyes, Tokiyami and Amaraito. The man was alone, but walking in a straight line towards Tokiyami. He walked past several bystanders and a few of our friends. Tokiyami instinctively let out Dark Shadow, which got everyone's attention. Most of them were confused, with Shinso asking, You know this guy or something? No, Shinso, Tokiyami decided to release a very lethal weapon against a random citizen. I didn't expect to bump into you here, Son of Darkness. But as soon as I spotted you walking towards the park, I knew it was finally my time. This is the day you fall, he said to Tokiyami. Tokiyami was frozen with fear. He was petrified. This man that had been haunting his dreams, or rather nightmares, for the past 2 months was here to kill him. Could his friends even stop him? Midoriya started powering up one for all as he stepped in front of Tokiyami. We beat you once, with a lot less heroes. What makes you think you can come here and try to hurt my friend when there's 3 times the amount of us here? He was scowling at Amaraito, which I think was meant to look intimidating, but it was more like a Pomeranian with a green wig, to be honest. A few civilians started looking curiously towards the rather well-known Tokiyami, who was ready to attack Amaraito at any time, and also at Midoriya, who was also about to attack. The other heroes in training started noticing too, some of them not even remembering who the man was, but others did. Sato turned to the small crowd and said, Stay back! This could get dangerous! The tall man with black hair and yellow eyes is a villain. Some snarky man who was only a little out of his teens gestured, Who do you think you are, trying to tell an older person what to do? Are you even a hero? Actually, who cares if you are? We can take care of ourselves, you know. The young man, who had quite a few piercings on him, held up his arm, showing his nails growing into sharp knives. He seemed rather impressed by his own quirk, proudly showing it off to Sato. Sato reached into his pocket and took out his wallet, and then showed the man his hero license. The law hasn't passed yet. Right now, there are 19 heroes facing off against this villain, and I've met him before. He's strong. Your pretty fingernails aren't going to do anything against his light manipulation. He then stepped to the side whilst watching the man and gestured towards Amaraito. But by all means, if you think you've had the training required to protect my friend Tokiyami from this psychopath who wants to kill him, be my guest. But until the law passes, I am a hero, and I'm going to do my job. The man glowered at Sato, then looked away, sticking his hands into his pockets. Some of the hero kids started attempting to get citizens to leave the park, or at least stay out of the way, starting to form a human wall between them and Amaraito. Amaraito sneered at the crowd and the wall of heroes before turning to Midoriya at a still petrified Tokiyami. Don't you worry, Deku. I know your tricks now. I've gotten stronger. And if I fail, I still won't have lost. You're going to see my true power. He started absorbing light and swirling it up his arm, but Midoriya wasted no time knowing how dangerous the man was and kicked him in the chest with a 5% full cowling shoot-style attack. Amaraito was sent back a bit of a distance, almost to the wall of ex-students, and Midoriya shouted, "That's a warning shot, Amaraito! I've grown stronger too!" There was a hint of doubt in his voice, as this was around the time he started to struggle with Black Whip. Amaraito smirked. Really? Then give me your all. He shot out light from his hands and tried to grab Midoriya, but he batted them away with just his own hands quite effortlessly. He wasn't trying to harm Midoriya though, he was just buying time it seemed. He was absorbing more light as he sent more beams of light towards Midoriya in a feeble attempt to damage him, but Midoriya saw through this. He leapt towards Amaraito almost recklessly to stop him from absorbing more light, as there seemed to be a dark aura around Amaraito already. Amaraito panicked for a moment, his pupils dilating, as he leaned back and created light armor for himself, which formed a hand in the chestplate, grabbing Midoriya and slamming him down into the floor. The light hand tried to dig through the floor with Midoriya in its grasp, but he pushed against the ground with all his strength. So Amaraito simply formed another hand to start pushing him down more. Amaraito was focusing too much on Midoriya to notice Tokiyami snapping out of it and throwing a Dark Shadow enhanced punch at him. It connected with his face and made him stumble back slightly, releasing Midoriya. Tokiyami continued attacking Amaraito, who then shone brightly with a light sword, swinging it at Tokiyami. Dark Shadow hit away and Tokiyami had to jump back, otherwise the sword would have cut straight through him. Midoriya started getting up as Bakugo came blasting in angry and attacking Amaraito, blasting him in the chest and shattering the chest plate. Well, this is an interesting development, he admitted, not knowing his armor even could be broken. Bakugo grinned and aimed towards Amaraito's face, which he encased in a thick light block to take the blast. He was still sent tumbling backwards though, towards the other students. He got up and saw Aoyama, who was staring awkwardly at him in return as he was trying to redirect a man and woman to safety. "The fight is over there, sir. I'm just here looking fabulous, minding my own business," Aoyama said. Amaraito narrowed his eyes at the boy and ran towards Bakugo. Aoyama sighed in relief and turned to the civilians. "And that, my friends, is called acting. I wasn't actually scared, of course. I was just trying to keep you safe." They didn't seem too convinced, but were more motivated to leave after looking death in the eyes and stuck with Aoyama. Kirishima, Mina, Yaoyorozu, Sato, Tokage, Shinso, and the rest of the students who weren't fighting were redirecting civilians. Mineta, of course, was helping the most attractive woman he could find. Shinso was brainwashing some of them to get them to leave without him even needing to do anything. They were just walking towards the exit at a brisk pace. Amaraito covered his arm in light, making a makeshift spear with his entire arm and aiming for Bakugo while shouting at him. Bakugo just barely dodged, but Amaraito expected this and punched him in the chest with a light fist coming from the left. Bakugo was still suffering from a few broken ribs, so curled up on the floor in pain. Amaraito, in a moment of blind rage and simply just not wanting any threats on the field, raised his spear arm to impale Bakugo. Not being able to reach him in time, Midoriya shot out Black Whip from his arms, sweating profusely and clearly also in pain, and threw Amaraito with all the strength he could muster up, the pain almost unbearable. he was sent down to the park again, this time bumping into Kirishima, who immediately activated Red Riot Unbreakable. He was protecting a young girl who, although old enough to walk on her own in a park, was definitely not old enough to fend for herself. Kirishima stood in front of the girl, glaring at Amaraito. The light villain stared down at them, tilting his head. I remember when I was young and innocent, like you. So pure, so precious. And here I am now, doing what needs to be done for retribution. Yet the so-called hero you're clinging onto would disagree, and endanger us all. Kirishima got ready to attack. Don't try to inject your toxic thoughts into this girl's head! Midoriya had fallen to the floor, his arms numb from using Black Whip, so now Tokoyami was the only one actively attacking Amaraito. He had to do something, and fast, otherwise civilians were going to start getting hurt. If only Sue and I had gone there instead, the fight would likely have been a lot more one-sided. Amaraito, although still a fool and a psychopath, was definitely getting more used to fighting. He knew Midoriya's tactics, and he accidentally hit Bakugo in his weak spot. He already knew Seto wasn't strong enough to beat him, nor was Yaoyorozu or Mineta. He wasn't sure who to attack next, but it would probably be best if he took out the tough-looking red-haired boy in front of him. Amaraito made a spear again, and went to attack Kirishima.